Hello and welcome back to Gardening and Allotment Tips. Another podcast for you to listen to today. Yesterday we talked about how to grow onions, as now is the time to be planting your onion sets and onion plants if you've grown them from seed. In today's episode we're going to talk about growing broad beans. Yes, now is the time to be growing your broad beans. And broad beans are a fantastic crop. You can get some fantastic broad beans from them, and they can keep you going for ages. And those Sunday dinners will be absolutely delicious if you add broad beans to them. There's so many recipes out there for you to have broad beans with. So we're going to talk about how easy it is to grow broad beans and any tips and advice that we can give you to grow them. So, if you're wanting to grow broad beans now, you can actually start sowing them into the ground direct because it is getting warmer here in the UK. Obviously, we're having a heat wave at the moment, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm loving this heat wave. I'm definitely getting a nice allotment tan, and I certainly have got some colour today in me. And hopefully, we'll get some more colour tomorrow because it's going to be another fantastic day tomorrow. So, back to the podcast. So, if you're wanting to grow broad beans, now is a perfect time to be sowing them. And obviously, you can sow broad beans direct into the ground, and you don't have to sow them in pots or anything, you can just sow them directly into the ground. But the only issue is if you're sowing broad beans directly into the ground, the mice and the rats and the squirrels may find them, so they may come along and pinch all your broad beans, and then you'll wonder why nothing's actually growing. And the same goes for birds, pigeons. As soon as the shoots start popping up out of the ground, the pigeons will come along and eat the tops off them because there's not much growing around at the moment for them. So unless you protect them from the mice, the rats, the pigeons, squirrels, anything that wants some food, you will lose the crops. So my advice sometimes is to actually start your broad beans off in pots first and get them growing in the greenhouse. Obviously it's nice and warm in the greenhouse now. You're probably reaching around 30-40 degrees in there at the best time of the day, and that will help the broad beans grow really fast and get growing strong and established. And then once the broad beans are to a decent height, a decent size, you can plant them outside and into the ground, which is perfect because then you can plant your broad beans at the correct intervals between each other. Sometimes when you plant them in the ground, you won't plant them at the right spacing and stuff like that, and they can become too congregated. So sometimes it's best off to start them off in pots first and then transplant them to the area that you're wanting to grow them. So once you've got your broad beans growing, now is the time to think about where you want to grow them. Now, broad beans are quite strong plants, but they do need that little bit of support to help them stand up, because once they get growing the broad beans on them, they are quite heavy and they'll bend over and they could snap the plant, and then you'll lose your broad beans, which you don't want to do. So you need to make sure you've either got some nice fencing up, or not my DIY sort of fencing. If you know about my DIY, you'll know that I'm not good at it totally. Or you can get some chicken wire, which is strong, sturdy, and will stand up in anything. Or if you can't afford some chicken wire, have a look at getting some garden netting, which is usually a lot cheaper, and you can get it for very cheap prices in the 99p shops and pound shops. So have a look around for some netting. Obviously it's plastic and you don't really want plastic stuff, but have a look around and see what's suitable for you. So you need to put some netting up first, and then you can plant all your broad beans in nice spaced evenly out and plant them all along that, and they should stand firm. Then as they get taller, you can fasten them to the netting and they won't bend over and snap, and you won't lose any of your broad beans. Now, the type of soil to grow them in, I tend to grow them in soil what's mixed with compost. I use usually have loads of compost left over from my old tomato plants and stuff like that and my cucumber plants, so I mix it in with the soil just to give it that extra bit of oomph and bit more nutrients into the soil. And obviously you can mix in some well rotted manure and stuff like that, or some homemade compost, which will help improve the soil condition. And once you've got them growing, then obviously when they get a bit bigger you can add some chicken pelleted manure, and that will soak into the soil as you water it, and it will help produce better crops. And if you've got any other garden feed or plant food, you can also feed that, and it'll help increase the crops. But broad beans in general will produce a good crop, and it's something that's very successfully grown, and you shouldn't be disappointed with what you get, because you always will get a good crop from them. So yeah, growing broad beans is very good. Now you've just got to make sure you pick them at the right time, because they can become too big and not very tasty once they get too big. So just keep them to a decent size and pick them when they're ready. Now as they get to a certain height, what you need to do is snip the tops off them to help bush them out and encourage the growth of the broad beans. And if you snip the tops off them, then it will encourage more broad beans to grow on the plant, and that is what you're wanting really, because obviously you're wanting more produce off them and more crops. And trust me, you will be giving broad beans to all your friends and family, because you will get a fantastic crop. Usually in a packet you'll get quite a few seeds in a packet, and that will do you over and over. And don't forget, you can freeze broad beans as well, so you don't need to waste them. If you get an allotment, the best thing to do is get a chest freezer, a spare chest freezer, and the amount of produce you will get from it, you will be saving all stuff over through summer, and you'll be eating it all the way well into the next year, and it will keep you going all the way through. So broad beans are a good thing to grow. And over the next couple of episodes we're going to be talking about planting your potatoes, because it's time to be planting them, and we'll also be talking about planting peas as well. So make sure you stay tuned for those episodes, and hopefully we'll start doing a lot more of these episodes to share with you, because I know you're enjoying them, as I always look at the stats to see how many people have listened to them. So I'm really pleased with how many is listening. And don't forget to click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all these podcasts. You'll get notified when a new episode is uploaded. And yeah, if you've not checked out my main podcast channel, that's called Gardening with Ben. Now there's over 160 episodes on there, so if you've not discovered that channel yet, you've certainly got plenty of episodes to listen to, and it will certainly keep your weekends filled with lots of interesting facts to find out. And on that podcast we talk about all the stuff we've been getting up to at the allotment, and sharing lots of tips and advice as we learn along with you. So yeah, I hope you do enjoy these podcasts. If there's anything that you want to chat about, feel free to send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. I do like to hear from my listeners, and it's great to get to know you, because so many people have messaged me through these podcasts. It's unbelievable, and I just can't believe how well they're doing. Like, this is my second podcast channel. Last year I only had one podcast channel, and it's gone from one podcast channel to two, and maybe I'll start a third one up next year, talking about gardening news. What's in the gardening news? I could do that, couldn't I? Have my own gardening news podcast, find out what's happening in the latest news and talk about that. But it's something we can think about in the future, share with you another podcast. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast for today, and as always, please do click that subscribe button and enjoy the sunshine. Make the most of it while you can, because this week is going to be fantastic. It's a great time to be sowing them seeds. Have a look at your seed packets and see what can be sown, whether it's in the greenhouse at the moment. But remember, frost can still come, so just be careful of that, and don't be too ambitious. Sometimes people start stuff off early and lose it all and end up having to sow it all again. So just make sure you keep an eye on the temperatures. And yeah, until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts.